about you, but I can't see the comments and who the comments are from on StreamYard. So I open it up in my phone. I'm just making
Okay.
sure that we're live. It
I
says we're
can't see
live.
any of the comments, so just so you know.
I will let you know. Oh, here we are. Okay. I will let you know who's saying what.
Cool.
Okay. And I also wanted to let you know that this is one of the most popular Live at Fives. Is that my voice? I hate hearing my voice on recording. This is one of the most popular. I accidentally made 2 events. So if you add up the people together, there's 35 people who said that they wanted to be here and see you. So anyway, hello, everyone. I'm going to start the recording from this point. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Live at 5. This is I'm so excited about this one because this is Angelica Jimenez. And before we start talking to Angelica, the reason why this one is so special is because when she was the first person who didn't think I was crazy, or maybe she did think I was crazy, but she still reached out to me. I had healed myself. And for a number of years, I didn't know if I had healed myself because I willed it to me and I had to do it. So therefore, I didn't know if it was real. So I started reaching out to people and saying, listen, I did heal myself. If you'd like to know how, or you want to talk, let me know. And I was getting kicked out and blocked by so many groups and so many people, and rightfully so. They were angry. They're like, no, there is no cure. There is no way to heal. How dare you say this? And they would kick me out. And I was starting to get very discouraged. And then this one sweet woman messaged me and she goes, can you please tell me more about that virus that you were talking about? And her name was Angelica. So that was September. I can hear myself, Angelica. I hate hearing my voice.
I'm sorry, my computer just all of a sudden just like generated the meeting. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on?
I do it every time when I go in the group to see the comments. I do it every time and I have to lower the volume. I'm like, oh, my voice.
I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I just sound like I have marbles in my mouth. So Angelica was the first person to reach out and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about what you said in the group about the virus? So her and I started talking, and then another person reached out. So there's only 2, Angelica and Tina, and we started talking every week. I think it was every Saturday. You were Saturday and she was Sunday, or vice versa. And then we wanted to stay in touch during the week. And so I think it was either you or Tina who said, why don't we start a Facebook group? And I was like, oh, let's call it Minding Your Soul. And
yes.
That's how it got
was
started.
me. I was like, let's do a group. Yeah.
And so Minding Your Soul now has 2,000 members, and it started with one person reaching out, and that's Angelica. So Angelica, thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start at hello, everyone. All right, people are coming on right now. If you have any questions for Angelica as we go through this, please put them in the group. And I know I say that all the time, and I get so focused on, the conversation, I forget, but we will go back and we will answer anything. But thank you for jumping on and saying hi. All right, so Angelica, let's take it from the beginning.
Okay.
Everyone else was blocking me and saying, there's no cure for MS. There's no way that you can heal. This whole virus theory is ridiculous. And they were really mean. Your exact message was, hi, Janine, I'm messaging you to ask which virus you were talking about. So simple and just so open. What in your mind? Why are you so different? Like, what in your mind went, maybe there's something to this? Were you just hell-bent on, there's got to be a cure, I have to heal myself? What was going on in your life at that time?
Well, I think for me, I'll rewind back to when I was diagnosed. So I was diagnosed in, I think it was like November 2018. And I like right away, they wanted to put me on medication. And I just was like, no, I wanted to figure it out, because there was points before I was diagnosed that I would feel better and then get worse. And they were just trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Doctors, they just send you to different appointments and, oh, maybe you're depressed. Maybe, it was just like a year and a half trying to figure out like
They
what
try to
was going
shame
on.
you and gaslight
Yes.
you. Nothing's wrong.
Yes.
You know, are you just depressed? Are you anxious?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't want to just take a pill that was going to mask the symptoms that I was experiencing. I wanted to get to the root cause and figure out what was going on. So eventually, I just started researching like about MS and what it was and why does it happen. And I ended up coming across HSCT, and I joined a group and was just reading all these success stories. And it was saying, the sooner you do it, the better, because you have less disability. Your, chances of having a full recovery and no symptoms is, you know, higher the sooner you go, and especially if you don't do medication. There was something about like if you just have never done the disease modifying medications and just went straight into HSCT, it would be better for you. So I started communicating with a few people, and one woman in particular, I connected with, and she had went to Russia and she did it in Russia. So I did that. I actually looked into doing HSCT here in the United States in Chicago because Dr. Burt was doing clinical trials there. And I didn't meet the criteria because you have to take two disease modifying medications and fail them before they will consider you for the trial.
Oh, wow.
So if you go, the two clinics in Mexico and in Russia don't require you to do that. So I actually applied to both. So Mexico got back to me, and then when Russia got back to me, I chose to go to Russia because it's all in a clinic. You're in a hospital with nurses, and the women I spoke to just raved of them. And I did. I went. I ended up going in March, and I had my transplant in April of 2019. And then what ended up happening was I came home, was recovering, noticed that my symptoms were, minimized, but of course, going through chemotherapy, going through everything, it breaks down your body. So, you lose your hair, you have all these muscle aches, there's a lot of side effects for chemotherapy. So I had to build my body from the ground up. And the thing was, is that the doctor from leaving Russia, I asked him, is there any like specific diet? Is there anything that, I should change, to prevent from MS coming back? He's like, no, just go live your life, be positive, good food, good, he had this like saying, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like good food, good, be with your family, good health. And so previous to going, I did change my diet. I was dairy free, gluten free, so of course, coming home, I slowly transitioned into my old life again, who I was before.
Speak a little bit about that.
So I started, eating, dairy, having dairy in my coffee. I started having toast with my coffee. I started having the gluten. I allowed other stressors coming back into my life, things that used to stress me before. And, it was maybe like a whole year later, year and a half later, I started noticing a new symptom, and it was in my foot. It was like prior to HSCT, I only had symptoms on my left leg, and then I started having it on my right foot. And I was like, why is this, tingling? I went to my neurologist, had an MRI, nothing showed up. So I was just like, no, something's
What
happening.
made you go gluten free and dairy free before? This is way before we met. Before HSBT.
Before then was because I was researching MS and I had found Terry Walls,
Okay.
and
Perfect.
she's gluten free. So
Yeah.
I was following that diet. And even when I followed the diet, like from diagnosis to when I left to Russia, I was doing way better than what I was
Right.
prior to that, because I was on a strict diet. And but then I went over there, came back, and started, a year later, maybe like a year and a half later, is when I started experiencing the new symptoms. And I was like, no, I'm not going back. I realize now the life that I had before diagnosis, before stem cell transplant, before even, after I met you and, changing my diet. I was trying to go back to that life. And that was the life that got me sick. That
Talk a little bit about that. The life that got you sick, the life that got me sick and so many other people. What did we not even realize that we were doing?
we're not putting ourselves first. We
Not
put
putting
everybody else before us. I had a very busy job. I was working 16-hour work days, 60-hour work weeks. I was a 911 dispatcher for a really busy city here in California.
You froze, but that's okay. Let's hope she comes back. And in the meantime, while she's frozen, I am going. Oh,
can you see me?
Yeah, now you're back. Okay.
Okay. So I did that for, I want to say like 10 years, a little over 10 years, and I got sick working there, working in a job where you're sitting all day, and then it's like high stress, it was just kind of like we're waiting for the next big, incident to occur, shootings, murders, robberies, it was all day, and then coming home, having 3 kids. My husband traveled a lot for work, and, I was basically doing everything. I don't know how I did it, but.
And not even just traveling a lot. He would go away for days, sometimes a week at a time.
Yes.
And there you are with 16-hour work days and 3 little kids. How old were your kids? The youngest was?
Well, at that time, because she's 12 now. So, this was like almost
7,
5 years ago. Yes.
Yeah.
She was very young. So, and then I have, he's now 15 and a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
So I was really busy, really, really busy. And I just thought I could do it all. And, I had lack of sleep, poor diet, stress, name it, I had it.
Yeah.
And
we don't do anything to revive ourselves on the weekends, because the weekends are just a time to get everything done that we didn't get done during the week. So there you are working this dispatcher job, 3 kids, a husband who travels, and you just keep running yourself into the ground. And then all of a sudden symptoms appear and you're like, I'll be fine. Yep. I'll be fine. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this shit. Even after you got diagnosed, I bet it was like, I don't have time for this.
Well, my thing is that after I had the transplant, I want to go back to work.
Right.
I grew up, being financially independent. I was raised by a single mother, so it was like raised to never depend on anybody. You can do it. And I was like, I choose to be with my husband. I don't need him.
You don't have to, right?
Yes,
I want this.
And that's such a horrible attitude to have. Now I think back, about it, and I'm just like, okay, that just comes from a lot of trauma, and I'm just realizing, I have realized, to change the way I look at things, not to think that, because back then it was like, I felt like everybody is like out to get you, and what are their
intentions? It's you against the world.
Questioning their intentions, and, like always feeling like, well, if this person does for me, what do they want in return?
Yeah. Oh God, that is such trauma. My God. And there's something to be said for single moms. I mean, they raise really tough kids, but I think and I'm going to put myself in that single mom category. I think what we fail to teach is that you don't have to do it all by yourself. Yes, I'm in this position, but you don't have to. And it's okay to be in a partnership with somebody.
Yes.
So there you are. You're working the hard job. Husband's traveling, get diagnosed, and you're like, okay, I'm going to fix this. HSCT. This sounded like a great thing. And I think HSCT can be a great thing if they combine it with a protocol, the gluten-free, the dairy-free, the egg-free, the celery juice, if they combine it with that, because you were doing great and so many people do great after HSCT, because I believe, and I don't know for sure, there's no research, but I believe that most of the virus is taken out of your system and it's flushed in with a new healthy blood and cells. But then little by little, because you can't ever remove 100% of your blood inside. You're always going to have a little bit of that virus that is able to grow. And if you feed it,
Mm-hmm.
it will grow.
Yeah.
So you got the HSCT in April of 2019, had a period of time where you're feeling good. Symptoms are less, energy is good. And then I met you a year later, a year and 5 months later. So what was life like when you reached out to me? What were the
Oh,
symptoms?
I was still like experiencing, the severe headaches that basically I couldn't function with them. I had these headaches that were just really severe. I felt like I had a band around my head, a lot of
She's so
pressure.
humble. Let me say this for you. I asked her, I said, what the headaches, how often do you get them? She's like, oh, every day. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst pain, how bad are they every day? She's like, every day it's a 10. Every day it's a 10. I'm like, how are you living? You're
I
amazing.
I wasn't living. That's the thing was that I wasn't. I was home. I was home with my kids, and if I could make dinner, I would, but my husband would
If
clean up. My mother-in-law and my mom were kind of like working shifts to help me with the kids, dropping off, picking up. They were helping me a lot. And then I was experiencing like these band fillings around my calves, and it just felt like I had weights that were holding down my legs, and it was hard to walk around the house like that. And then of course, when you and I started communicating, and you're like, give up the gluten, don't, you're explaining everything. And then of course, I started researching. I bought like the books that you told me you had read. There was a book that you said you initially read that had talked about like giving up gluten, so I bought that book, read
just
it.
so everyone knows, that first book that I came across, I'm not the kind of I'm not a trailblazer. I'm not like, I'm going to do it even though no one else has. No, I found a book very early on, the MS Recovery Diet book. It's old. It was written in the 80s, but these two women who had MS, one was bedbound and the other one was wheelchair bound, they got they got completely healthy and reversed all of their symptoms with food, going gluten-free and dairy-free. And I was thinking, well, that sounds insane. Growing up with a single mom, processed food, I had no connection to food and how the body felt. I'm like, I'm sure Taco Bell has some nutrients in it. I mean, it's keeping me alive. So for me to see that, that was enough for me to go, okay, maybe there's something to this. So that's, yeah. So
Yeah.
you
So,
had heard,
so,
go ahead.
so I bought that book, and then you had told me to get the medical medium book, which is what I bought. And I just remember, I think it was within like the same week, I started the detox program.
Yeah.
And I was dying. I was dying.
That
I was
you
like,
went,
what's
she
wrong with
went right
me?
into the 369.
Yes, yes, I did. It was really
But you were
horrible.
a trooper, like you did it.
I did. I
And it
stuck
was
with it.
miserable.
Hmm.
I don't recommend that cleanse.
No.
Now, I have learned everything from starting with you and leading up until starting a business. I have learned everything. And now I know, don't do the 369 cleanse until later when the symptoms are getting better. And you went right into it and you're like, this sucks. Remember the first 2 weeks, you're like, I don't know if I could do this. And you kept going.
Yeah, I did. Well, I just kind of felt, my body had a lot to detox, you know, all the years of just, working in the environment I was working. We didn't, we didn't cook for ourselves. We were always buying like fast food, pizza, just eating the worst. Like, I just remember days I didn't even drink water. I just drank coffee all day because, we're trying to stay awake.
And then would you go home like me and then have a glass of wine and think nothing of it? Coffee and
Yeah,
wine.
and
That's
go
it.
to bed. Yep.
Yeah. And then go to bed and do it all over again. And then
Yes.
wonder, God, why am I so tired? Why do I feel so
Mm.
achy? No one taught us this stuff.
No. So over the last, 2.5 years, I would say, there's been a bunch of different modalities that I've been doing. I did get a functional medicine doctor. I'm seeing a biological dentist because I'm getting rid of some old root canals and, get rid of the metal, anything that will, affect your health, because basically root canals are like having dead teeth in your body,
That's
and
what they are.
they have like infections in the roots, and they suggest for you to get them out because it does affect your immune system.
So before anyone goes rushing out to the dentist to do this, please explain the difference between a biological dentist and a regular dentist, because we are not recommending you go to a
Yes.
regular dentist. They don't have the knowledge of a biological.
No. So biological dentists, they basically work with like how your body works. They want to keep your body in tune. So some of them work with the meridian. Basically, it's like Chinese. How the nerves work, what tooth is connected to different parts of your bodies. They also will use like no mercury. They use ozone to clean your teeth out. It's less invasive, actually. It's
And when they're removing the mercury that we all got back in the
oh,
80s,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I had a
they have all
mouthful.
this protective gear on. They protect you. So you're like seeing how toxic it is because they are doing all of these. They have all these measures that they're taking to protect themselves and protect you from it, to remove that mercury from your teeth.
And people don't realize, because we're never told this. I
No.
didn't know. I put it together. Pieced it together years later. I was in the hospital in the infectious disease ward, and they kept asking me, "Have you left the country? Are you sure you didn't leave the country?" I'm going, "Really? I would know if I left the country." No, they didn't know what was wrong with me because my white blood cell count was through the roof. So my body was responding to an infection that they could not see.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know. Now I know. When they shave down, a regular dentist will shave down the mercury fillings, and those shavings go right into your bloodstream, right down your throat, into your bloodstream, and the virus goes whoo, and loves it because it's food for the virus, and that's when the immune system goes crazy and goes on
Yeah.
the attack. But the doctors couldn't see the Epstein-Barr. It was in the organs. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
in my blood, and the only thing they test for is the blood. So that's why, if you're watching this, please don't go to a regular doctor and be
No.
like, "Okay, Angelica got all of these things removed." You have to go to a biological dentist or a
Yes.
dentist who understands how the body works.
And just research, find a doctor that's near you. And for me, there's just a lot of in the area where I'm at, I think I only found like two or three like biological dentists that I
And she's in
felt,
California, guys. So if
yes,
you've never heard of a biological dentist, don't worry about it. They are out there. But
that
being in
I felt,
California,
okay going to go see.
yeah.
So it's been a long journey, because I also like I was telling you earlier, I follow Holly Hag. She's amazing. She has so much information, and just the way she has helped me, is to be like, to listen to your body, really listen to your
And to
body.
understand, like when she talks about sugar, we were talking about sugar, she will break down exactly, she won't just say, "Okay, sugar's bad." Here's what sugar does to the body. So what did you notice cutting out sugar?
So I've cut out sugar maybe the last like 2-3 days. And it's more like, I guess you would say, like, I'm still eating fruit, but not
Yeah.
as much as I was. And I'm being careful, like the times that I'm eating it.
She's frozen. Let's hope she comes back. Last time it only lasted a couple seconds, and I went to the comments. How has your daily protocol changed as you got healthier? Martha, I will ask her that. That's a great
Okay, I'm
question.
here.
Okay, perfect. We got a question for you. So you were talking
Okay.
about sugar.
So I noticed that I would have to go to the bathroom like at night, get up a lot at night, to urinate. And I'm like, what am I doing? I've cut off my liquids at a certain time. Well, I think it was the sugar, because I would end up like having some watermelon, cherries, or coconut ice cream or something, sweet, something with sugar.
Yeah.
Am I frozen again?
No, you're going. You're going.
Okay.
Sorry. I was just talking over you going, "Oh, coconut ice cream, my
Yes.
favorite." Yeah.
So I noticed that, like, with those things, oh my God, it's like triggering my bladder. It's doing something to me. I don't, it's the sugar, because sugar raises your acid in your body. You want your body to be more alkaline. And so I was just like, okay, this has to be it. So the last couple of nights I've been like, okay, lay off this stuff, and I've noticed a difference today.
And it's these little things that you still are learning. I'm still learning. It's an evolution. So Martha had a great question. How has your daily protocol changed as you got healthier? So let's give everybody the timeline.
Okay.
Diagnosed, I don't want to do medication. There's got to be a different way. You came across HSCT. HSCT is great, but if you don't keep up with killing the virus, it's eventually going to come back. So you started eating gluten and dairy again, and then symptoms started coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when we met and we started talking.
Yes. And then I started working with the functional medicine doctor to help heal my gut, because she did a test on me. It's called, it's a Nutri Eval and a GI test, and basically it showed that I had, candida. I also had dysbiosis. So just my stomach was just a mess,
More bad bacteria than good bacteria.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And basically leaky gut so basically the stuff that you're eating is getting into your bloodstream, which is feeding the viruses, bacteria, because I also did a mold test and I showed that I had high 4 different molds that were high. Yeah. So I changed a lot of different things. I do a therasage, I do a sauna. I try to do that, 3 times a week. I do
the sweating when you go into the sauna and you sweat. That's your body's natural way of detoxing.
Mm-hmm. So there's like 3. So every morning I do have my lemon water, my 16 ounces. I do my celery juice. I don't do the heavy metal detox every day. I'll probably do it like 2 times a week. But what I do is because I do a smoothie of power greens, try to get a lot of cruciferous vegetables in and greens with dark
I love
berries.
that you just said that word. I've never said it out loud before. Say that again.
Cruciferous.
Okay, got it.
Cruciferous vegetables. You're making me say it wrong.
I'm sorry. No, you said it great. And I'm like, I'm always so envious of people who can say that word. Go ahead.
So, I make sure I get my flaxseed, or if I don't have flax, I'll use chia for the omegas because those, are really healthy for your brain. I eat a different way. And so what I will do sometimes is I will add like my spirulina, I'll add my chlorella, I'll add the dulse flakes. I'll add that to my smoothies along with the blueberries, cilantro, and I'll add fruit in it and I drink it all together because I'm like, I'm not going to make 2 different smoothies like every day.
Oh, yeah.
No.
And it's not like the celery juice. You can add whatever you want to it. Make it however you want. It's just those few ingredients that are going to work together to get the metals out.
So, and instead of doing like orange juice, I'll like just peel orange and throw it in there.
Yep.
So I just change it up, how I do it. And that's
for people who are watching this right now who have never done any kind of protocol, who are like, I'm not sure if I want to change my life that much, my family's not going to eat this way, and then I'm going to be like, oh, I can't have that. Like, how hard was it? How hard was it for you to transition into this lifestyle, and how do you feel about living this lifestyle now?
Well, you have to change your life. That's for me. I found, that I had to change my life because if I stayed in the old life I had, I would still continue just going downhill. That life was not taking me anywhere but to illness. It was having me hold on to the trauma that I've had. It just, pushing things down inside of me, ignoring it like it's not there. That I think in the long run was making me sicker. The frustration, anger, I was grieving a lot, the life that I used to have. And I had to understand my grief, that's not me anymore.
That's a great way to put it. For anyone who's saying to themselves right now, but I don't want to give up bread, but I don't want to be a different person. I want to live like a normal person. I don't want symptoms, but I don't want to have to eat and be that person who goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gluten-free. Like, we've all been there. There is a mourning period that you go through.
You do. You feel like you're losing everything. You're like, for me, I felt like Like I was losing who I was. I was losing, the mother I thought I was going to be. I lost my career because, I ended up just retiring from my job and not going back, losing my financial freedom. I didn't just feel like a woman. I didn't feel very feminine. Mind you guys, I lost my hair at that time too. So I didn't have any hair. I was just feeling, and I felt like I lost myself throughout this whole process. And then you don't feel physically well. So you're just imagining all of these horrible things in your head. And you have to remember that your mind is not your friend. Your mind is a liar. Your mind lies to you. You make up all of this shit in your head and it's not real. So you have
You've
to
done
always
some
remember
mindset
that.
work. You have done some work. This is great advice.
So you have to remember that when you're thinking next year I'm going to be in a wheelchair and I'm not going to walk, that's your mind lying to you and you're picturing it and your body does not understand the difference. It's reacting to what you're making, your brain is thinking, so you're just like, no, I don't believe that. My mind is a liar. It's not my friend. I will say that to myself a lot. I
always use the analogy. As a woman, we put on necklaces, and we go to put on the necklace and we can't find the clasp. So what do? We bring it out front, we look at it, and we go, oh, okay. And then you can do it. Why? You didn't grow eyes in the back of your head. You just gave your mind a target. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to see it in order to now make that clasp find the loop. And what you just said is so important. Your mind is a liar. When your mind is going, you're never going to get better. You're going to end up in a wheelchair. What's going to happen to your kids? God only knows what your husband thinks of you. All of these things, you have the ability to go, this isn't real. I don't want to be thinking like this. It's not easy, right? Because that's the easy thought. Mm-hmm. You have to redirect and go, okay, that's enough of that. I don't identify with that. What do I want to think? I will be healthy. Right. I don't have evidence of that right now, but you know what? I'm going to keep reaching out to find that evidence, which is why we do what we do here.
Yes.
Give people the evidence that healing is possible. No, for a lot of people, it's not easy. Depending on for how long you've been sick and what your symptoms are like, it's not easy. And you will go through that mourning period. Mm-hmm. And to be real about what healing is like, I call it the peaks and valleys. Now, if you're just coming on, if you weren't on in the first 5 minutes of this interview, Angelica was the very first person. She is the reason why Minding Your Soul Path to Healing exists. She is the reason. She is the first person who didn't block me, who didn't yell at me. Every time I went into Facebook groups, it was all about, oh my God, there's no cure. How dare you say this to us? And she sent me a message saying, what are you talking about with the virus? Can you tell me more of that? And from there, we talked every single weekend for about 4 months. And that's why the Path to Healing group coaching is a 4-month program, because I realized that there is a mourning period. There is a transition period.
Yes, there is. I feel like I was grieving for a long time. Yeah. And I think, I know I didn't understand what I was feeling. Oh, shit.
What's the matter? You're good.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Can you hear me?
You didn't go anywhere.
Oh, I was like, what happened? My phone had stopped.
Oh, yeah, no, you were good.
So, I didn't understand why I felt the way I felt. All I knew was I got this diagnosis. My body is breaking down. I'm not going to live the life that I thought I was going to live. I'm not going to be the wife that I thought I was going to be to my husband, the mother, to my children. I just felt like everything, my whole life was falling apart. And so I was constantly in this, feeling depressed. I would cry every day, looking at my kids. And I was like this for a while. And
I remember when you finally started having days where you weren't crying. We talked and you would say, I didn't cry yesterday. There were little tiny pieces of hope that would come in.
Yes. So then I started doing acupuncture, and my acupuncturist is amazing. I love her. She was like, you have a reason why you're feeling this way. And then, she's like, I want you to go home and list all of the things that you feel like you've lost because of your illness. So I made a list. It was like a whole page, like 2 column list of everything that I thought, that I felt like I lost. And she's like, grieve it, cry. Now you have it out there. She goes, this is the reason why you feel the way you feel. It's not just because of MS. This is the reason why you feel this way. And now we're going to build you back up because you're not going to stay in this hole. She goes, we're going to dig you out. So slowly, I was seeing her like twice a week, sometimes once a week, twice a week. Then eventually I moved to every other week. And of course, then also following, the lemon water, celery juice, and then working on like my gut health. If any of you guys are suffering from, or if you have ever suffered from acid reflux, look into it because it is real and it messes with, the balance of your gut. It means that you have low stomach acid. So you're not digesting your food very well, or you have a leaky gut, and that's leaking into your bloodstream, and it's feeding, any of the viruses, parasites, anything that you may have, bacteria that's in your bloodstream. So,
and when people hear acid reflux, they think too much acid.
Too much acid. No, it's
But
sometimes,
really?
and there are people that do have too much, but then there are, because it's also the food that they eat, but also the stomach acid, you can have low stomach acid and then get the acid reflux symptoms, and I had it for years before I was ever diagnosed, and I still had it after HSCT. Now I don't have it, I take, digestive enzymes, that will help me digest my food. And I take betaine, which helps with the stomach acid. So it's a lot of different things that I have been doing,
And it was an evolution.
Yes.
It was an evolution. If someone came to you when you had these symptoms and said, here is a book of all the things that you need to do in order to heal yourself, how would you feel? How overwhelming was that?
It's very overwhelming. Yes.
But what you did was you said, okay, little by little, I'm going to chip away at this. Let me do this and see how I feel. And I'm going to stick with it. Let me try now something else now that I've got that. When I talk about the peaks and the valleys, yes, on a physical level, you go through peaks and valleys where you're feeling great, and then all of a sudden you go into a valley. Healing is not linear. You don't just start here and go all the way up. When you go into those physical valleys where your symptoms are getting worse, or maybe some are coming back, the mind right away goes to, see, this isn't working. You should have listened to the doctor. You're completely wrong. And that nasty ass bitch starts talking again. How are you able to get through those valleys, those emotional valleys where the mind just wants to fuck with you?
Yeah, well, it's easy to say that, but it's harder to like really do it. And you have to practice it, because in the beginning I was like, this fucking lady doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't understand me. I can't do this. I always felt like I couldn't do it. And I'm sorry, I don't want to say that to you. But
what? Now you have to tell people the truth, because this way, when they feel it, they're going to go, oh, this is normal. This is part of the process.
Yeah. So, for a long while, I just felt like, oh my God, this is not going to get better. This is not going to get better. And then, God, I can't even say, maybe like 9 months. It wasn't something fast. It was a process for me. It wasn't.
There were little tiny peaks in those 9 months that gave you the little bit of hope to keep going.
Keep going. Yes. Yeah. So, and I was there were points where I would feel like, okay, this is working. I'm getting somewhere. Oh my God, I got up with the kids this morning, got them ready for school, and I drove them to school. There was just, because there were points in my life where I didn't want to be left home alone with my kids. I think you remember that. I was like, there was this weekend, my husband had to fly out to Arizona, and I called you.
I remember that.
And I was freaking in tears. I was in the room, and I'm like, I'm home alone with the kids, and I'm so scared something's going to happen, and you're like, nothing's going to happen. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. And my mother-in-law's coming tomorrow. You know, my husband had to fly out, and I just feel so nervous being here. And I just remember that night, I was like, okay, I have to make dinner. You know, my kids were hungry. So I made dinner and I cleaned up and everything. We sat down and we watched a movie. We hung out. We were not even home that long by ourselves, but I was freaking out.
But you were freaking out because the fear of the what if this happens?
Yes.
What if this happens? And I remember telling you, you know what? Something might happen, Angelica, and you're going to get through it and you're going to deal with it. Because when it comes to your kids, you're going to find that energy and you're going to do it.
Yes.
But nothing happens.
No.
But sometimes you just have to get that up and say it out loud. I'm afraid that this will happen. I'm freaking out inside.
Yes.
And as soon as you get that up, you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Maybe something won't happen.
Yeah. So I made it, you know, through the day. And then slowly I was like, go ahead. I don't need nobody here with me. I'm fine. You know, I wanted my privacy back. And then I was just like, tell my husband, like, when's your mom going to go home? You know, and he's just like, you really, you know, you don't want anybody? No, I'm good. Just me and the kids, you know.
And it took a long time. It took months for this to happen. And many people have been told so many times, you cannot heal. Healing is not possible from MS. You just have to learn to live like this.
My neurologist was very skeptical. And she, you know, I haven't gone back to her in over a year because I think the last appointment I had with her, she wanted to do another MRI. And I told her why. I feel exactly the same as I felt like the previous year, and nothing's changed. If anything, I feel better. And I told her no, I wasn't going to do the MRI. So then she has this lady walk in because, you know, she knows like all the dietary things I've changed, everything I'm doing, lifestyle choices that I made, you know, working on my mental health, you know, and so she sends in this lady that is doing a study, and this is at Stanford Medical Center, okay, and here in California. Stanford's like really, you know, bigwig hospital, and they're like, we were wondering if you want to be involved in this study that we're doing here of people that are doing the disease modifying medications, you know, people with MS, they're using DMDs to people that are changing their lifestyle and not on medications to see how they are, you know, ranking against each other. So I was like, sure. They're like, can you give us a blood sample? They had me do this, like a DNA. They're going to do something with my DNA. And the lady takes me down to the lab and she's like, you know, I just want to, you know, she goes, you're doing awesome. She says, I just want to ask you, like, what exactly are you doing? So I told her everything. And she's like, you know, honestly, I see people like you doing so much better than people who are just doing the medication.
Oh, I was hoping she was going to say something positive. Wow.
Yeah.
That has to give you so much to keep going.
So I just looked at my husband because, you know, my husband's always been kind of like, okay, we'll go with whatever you want, you know, but kind of nervous. Like, maybe you should still do medication. And I just told him I don't want to do the meds. And he's supportive, but nervous, you know, and now he's like, yeah, you don't need the medication.
But you had to be the trailblazer. You had to be the trailblazer in the family. Where did that come from? Why didn't you want to do the meds? Everywhere you looked, people were on the meds.
Well, I think because I read the pamphlets. My neurologist kind of messed up in the beginning, and I ended up like not going back to him. He gave me just all these booklets to bring home of all the different medications, of all the medications. And then there was like a chart on it, and it like showed you what Tecfidero was, you know, Ocrevus. It was like all these meds, and just kind of what then all the side effects were. And I was just like, I don't want any of that. And especially PML, which is a deadly brain infection that nobody survives. So
I don't understand how people can say, yeah, I'll take that risk.
Yeah. So I just, you know, and that's just my preference. That's my preference. You know, I was already feeling shitty enough. I didn't want something else to make me feel worse. So when that happened, and then when they just made me an appointment to go do the Ocrevus infusion, and I didn't go to the appointment.
Wow, they just made the appointment.
They just made the appointment without telling me. And then, so the office is calling me to go in for my infusion. and I wouldn't return their phone call. And then, because at that point I had already made up my mind to go get HSCT. And then the pharmaceutical rep started calling me
Oh, they're
and
such bullies.
wanting me to go, like, oh, we see that you didn't, and I didn't know the number, so I answered it. And he's like, hi, I'm so and so, blah blah. Why didn't you come to your appointment? We have you scheduled. They have your medication there. We've already sent everything. And I was like, no, I decided not to do that. I'm doing something else. Well, can I ask you what you're doing? No, no.
No. Oh,
I
that
don't
was
even,
great.
so it was really frustrating because I was like, what doctor's office has like a pharmaceuticals office call you? Their
Oh, let's
rep was
ask.
calling you.
Let's ask the audience here. If you've ever been bullied to take a medication by your neurologist, doctor's office, received a phone call, been shamed or bullied, put a letter, an M, put an M in the comments and let us just see, let everybody see. It's
Yes.
crazy. I don't know what their intention is. I don't know if their
Yes.
intention is to help, if their intention is to make money. I don't know what it is. And for people who are
It is
not
to make money. It
I
is to make
want to
money.
say that. I
No,
know.
it is because there's this website. I don't remember what it's called, but if you research it, there is a website to see how much your neurologist is getting kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies. I looked it up. This was years ago, though. And when I seen how much money they were making, I was like, this is
That makes
ridiculous.
sense.
Yeah. Because
That makes
they're
sense.
getting kickbacks from the pharmaceutical company and then making their salary too.
And if it's approved by the FDA, they feel like, why not? Why can't we do this? And they'll turn a
Yes.
blind eye. Look at all the people that are coming in the comments that say, yep, me, mine did. Who said that? Had to threaten the pharma company with harassment to stop calling me. They threatened a harassment charge.
Yes.
Look at all the people that have been. Oh, that was Holly. Of course, it was Holly. I had to look.
Yes.
I had to threaten pharma company with harassment to stop calling me.
And Holly, I will tell you, because I met her through you, and also Maisha Mays through
Oh,
you.
Maisha,
Me
yes.
and Maisha, we still keep in touch.
Oh.
And I will have to say, having a good group of women to support you through this, and we're all on the same journey. We're all trying to heal our bodies in a way that people have told us that we couldn't. I know, okay, I'm getting older. I'm 46 years old. I'm going to have some aches and pains. There's going to be, but I want to be able to function. I want to be able to raise my children and see them grow. And I feel like I'm going to do everything I can to be here and be healthy. I'm not going to go back to those old habits. I'm not going to go back to that old life. I don't want that life anymore. Even Tracy Hill. I worked with Tracy too.
Yeah.
She did. She used her magnet on me.
So many good people are out there. Once you go looking for it, you will find these people who are on your journey, who are doing the same thing. Now, old habits. I want to talk about that for a little bit. Our old habits that we were in, I have found, as you go on through this life and you're through this journey and you're healing and you're getting better, how easy is it to slip into those old habits of, I can do it, I'll do it, I could do more, don't worry, I can get it done.
It's very easy. And I catch myself doing it a lot. I'm a very giving person. And also, I'm a parentified child. So my mom was a single mother and, raising 5 kids. I was the second oldest, but me and my older sister were 6 years apart. So she moved out like right when she was like 18, 19 years old. And I was still home with all my younger siblings. So my mom, depended on me. Okay, get dinner started, do the laundry, clean the house, make sure the kids are ready for school. So for me, I would feel like my mom, she worked a lot. Coming home, she would just be tired and come home to like a messy house. So me being the oldest at home, I was like, I'm going to clean the house so mom will be happy. I'm going to start dinner so mom will be happy. You know what? I'm going to do this, without her asking me. And as an adult, I turned into that person still for everybody. I'm going to do this because I felt like my mom was always busy working. And it wasn't that I didn't feel like she loved me, because I knew my mom loved me. but she was just very hard and like busy, busy woman, can't depend on nobody, like the
Get
only
it
person.
done. Go, go,
Yes,
go.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so growing up, that's what I seen. And then, the taking care of my siblings, it was like they wouldn't go to my mom for things, they would come to me. And even now as adults,
I was
they would
just going to
still
say, and
come
they're
to me.
still doing that.
So they would call me and like, what do I need help with this, or I need to borrow money, or just marital problems. And
all of
I
that
would take it on. And then my mom, I would feel like my mom, my mom didn't do this intentionally, but she would come to me as if I was her partner, because she didn't have a husband, she didn't have a significant other. So I'm like handling her financial stuff for her. I'm booking her travel arrangements. I'm helping her refinance her house. And then I'm having my life and with my husband and
your
our
husband and
kids.
3 kids, and you're
Yes.
traveling. Yeah, he's traveling.
And then, my sisters at the time were also single mothers. So I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'll babysit your kids. I'll do this.
I'll make them dinner.
Yes.
Bring them over.
Now I'm like, no, like you take care of your kids. And
you take care of you, I take care of me.
And I had to be blunt with them. My sisters and like my brother, like we're all good, our relationship, but there have been like people in my family that I've had to stop communicating with them because I'm not that person anymore. I don't give anymore. And people just take from me, and that's what it was, is people were just taking from my cup, or taking from me. I don't even want to say my cup. And I was filling my cup with everybody else's shit and not mine, not just mine. And I'm like, nope, you can have your stuff back. I don't want this.
That was also an evolution, because it's not like you wake up one morning and you're like, I'm done. That's it. It was little by little. She would say, I'm sorry, I'm not available for that.
Mm-hmm. And then people get mad and they get angry. And I'm just like, that's not my issue. That's your issue. You need to work on that. You need to work on your crap, because I'm working on mine.
And you grow into this confident person who can say, no, I can't help you with that. I'm sorry, but I can't. Mm-hmm. Now, here's an interesting thing that after talking to so many people, I've seen this pattern, and I'm learning about the energy. What side, your right or your left side, was affected when you first started with your symptoms?
My left side.
Your left side. Now, you talked about your mother and the single mother and not getting the love and the care. The left side is our feminine energy. The right side is the masculine energy. At one point, you were getting symptoms on both sides. Mm-hmm. So I'm finding, especially in the group coaching, the ones who have the mother issues, the ones who never got that love, the ones who are feeling that sense of loss or just that hole in their heart, it's the left side. The ones who are doing doing too much, always saying, I could do it, that's the right side. And there are people like Angelica who have both and are experiencing issues on both sides. It is very interesting to watch what our situation in life was and what side of the body it affects.
Yeah.
And we don't, it's hard to say, well, MS is just an energetic imbalance, because it's not. It's also a physical. What starts in the energy field manifests physically into the body. So that's why, if you listen to Angelica, you have to address all of it.
Everything.
Body, the mind, and the soul.
Because it's like an umbrella disease. Well, I think autoimmune is an umbrella. There's MS underneath, there's
rheumatoid,
lupus, scleroderma, there's all of these diseases, and there is a connection. I feel that there is, with the viruses, the bacterias, the parasites,
the mold.
Yes. And then there's something in our body, which I feel like it's the gut part, that breaks down, and we're not, because our gut will keep everything in check. Something's going on. And once you get a leaky gut, that's where disease just starts,
It thrives.
Yes. And, and that's just stuff I've read, I'm not a doctor, and,
Oh, right. We forgot to say that. We are not doctors. We are not medical professionals. All we are people who have healed and have some information to share.
Yes. And, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm healed. I'm a new person. I still do get symptoms. So I want you guys to understand, I do still get symptoms. If I am under a lot of stress, I've been under a lot of stress lately because of stuff that was happening with my son's school and, meetings with the school and just finding out some stuff I did not like. It wasn't about my son. He's good. But it was just with going on with like the teachers, principal, stuff like that. And the other day I was like, I went to bed and I was like, my left leg was tingling, my
Tingling.
foot, and I do get tingling. I do, but I don't get scared anymore.
It's your
I'm
red
just
flag.
I'm just like, okay, what did I do? Okay, it's the stress. It's this,
What
like,
needs tweaking in my
yeah.
life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, emotional, that tingling is the red flag to go, something's not in balance.
Yeah.
What do I need? So it's not scary anymore. How scary was it? Remember, how scary was that? Oh my God, I'm not getting better. What's wrong? What did I do? Until now it's like, oh, something's not right. Let me go address it.
Yeah. Well, like, what do I need to do? Right now, and believe me, your life, you're always going to have stressful situations. It's just how you deal with it, and there's some things that you have control over. There's some things that you don't. And, you can't predict the future. You can't think of, I don't do that. I try not to do that anymore. Like, oh, this is going to happen. This.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be stressing about stuff that hadn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
And then I catch my kids, like stressing about finals, stressing about a test, stressing. I'm like, it hasn't even happened yet, and this is what I tell my son. I go, you prepare now, prepare everything now, do everything that you need to do now so that when you get to that point, you don't have to worry. And so I take that, like, if I'm eating right, taking care of my stress, my mental health, I'm exercising, drinking my water, doing my celery juice, drinking all my cruciferous vegetables.
There it is. You're so good at that word.
Also your omegas, flaxseed, very important. Flaxseed is very important. I love flax seeds. I am just finding all these, different things that are going to prepare me for the future,
Angelica, you just reminded me. So imagine having a baby now, knowing what you know now. Because when we had our babies, we didn't know all this about food and how important it was. Having a baby now at 45 years old, when you said flaxseed, I'm like, oh God, yeah, the flaxseed and the chickpeas I got to put together for his food. Like it was so much easier. My husband goes, well, did you do this with your first two? And I said, of course not. I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. And now everything is gluten-free, dairy-free, the flaxseed, the protein. It's so different. But it is a pain in the ass, or at least transitioning into this lifestyle is a pain in the ass. Talk to the people about going out to dinner, because that seems to be a big question about, well, when I go out to dinner, like, how am I going to go out to dinner? How am I going to eat gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free? It is a pain in the ass in the beginning, but how do you handle it now?
Well, I plan ahead. So there's a couple of restaurants that I really like, I will enjoy to go eat. And I know I can order something off the menu. There's this place out here, it's called Luna Kitchen. It's a Mexican place. I love that restaurant. I don't do the corn, but even though it is like a non genetically modified type corn, I still don't do it. I spoke to the owner, so they fry their tortilla chips in rice bran oil, and they have exclusive fryers that only for chips. No, they don't use anything else because she tries to cater to people that have autoimmune issues or dietary restrictions. And they have gluten-free. They will ask you when you're ordering stuff, do you have any dietary restrictions, allergies? I always say I have an allergy. I don't say dietary restrictions. I say allergy.
Right. They take it more seriously that way.
Yes. I have an allergy to gluten. I have an allergy to dairy, so I always, And
you see what Angelica said? You prepare in advance and you go to the restaurant and you talk to the owner, especially if it's a restaurant that you like. Go talk to the owner on off hours. Don't go during lunch or dinner.
Mhm.
And you say, hey, listen, I would love to eat more often at your restaurant. I need to know that I can eat safely here. Can we have a conversation about it?
Yeah.
And they love that. The
Yes.
chefs, the restaurant owners, right? Arden says, and eggs. Yes, and eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do eggs either.
Yeah. There's so many things, but if you have these conversations and you have your go-to restaurants, but let's say you're traveling, you're on vacation, because you were in Hawaii recently,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, by
So,
the way. I
thank
loved
you.
hearing from you. I loved reaching out and you're like, oh, that was from when I was in Hawaii. I'm like, she was in Hawaii.
Well, when
How is it like eating out in Hawaii?
So I was fortunate enough to stay in like a timeshare where you have your, your kitchen and fridge and everything. So what I did was I did a big Costco order.
There you go.
So and they deliver to your hotel. So you don't even have to leave. So I just did a Instacart Costco order, and I ordered like, what did I order? I ordered
there's so much
salad
at
mixes.
Costco.
Yes, I ordered fruit. I ordered they have those, I think it's suja. They're like these it's like a power green type smoothie.
Oh.
And so I ordered one of those. So I made sure I had a glass of that every day. And, just ordered salad stuff to make salad. I bought apple cider vinegar. I bought everything so I can make dinner. We ordered steaks. I didn't have a steak, but, everybody else did. And we cooked dinner like a couple of nights. We all took turns, because I have to eat my food. I eat how I eat, and I don't let anybody tell me any different. We went to this like restaurant and they didn't have nothing gluten free. So I said, I'm not getting anything. Everybody's looking at me. They're like, are you sure? I'm like,
it's
I'm
not
positive.
worth it. It's
I'm
just
like,
not worth
I'll
it.
just give me some water and some lemon and I'm fine. I don't need nothing else.
It's not worth it anymore.
And for me, I'm fine with it. I think it's everybody else that has an issue. I don't have an issue. Like,
Right.
Don't worry. I'll eat when I get back, or if it's late, I won't eat, because I try not to eat too late either.
Because this is my life.
Mm-hmm.
No one, those people who are bothered by it, who are sitting next to you, if they're not your family, they're not the ones who go home with you and have to live through these symptoms. They're not the ones who have to experience any of this. A meal is not worth feeling like crap, not having the energy to do what you want to do in life.
Exactly. And we walked a lot on vacation. We went to, the flea markets. We went to, we did everything there. We
did everything,
so much.
And your energy was absolutely fine.
Yes. Like this couple of weeks ago, we went to San Francisco because I live in the Bay Area in California. And they had this annual parade. It's called Carnaval. It's like, have you heard of it? The Carnival. It's from Brazil, and
I've heard of the word Carnival. Yeah, from Brazil. I didn't know they had it there though. That's awesome.
They have the annual, parade here in San Francisco. So we went, and my cousin, she does Aztec dancing. So she was walking in the parade. She danced in the parade, and we got to walk with them in the parade. And at the end of the day, I looked at my watch, and it was like 6 miles. So I was like, okay. Like, keep doing what I'm doing,
Keep doing what you're doing. Because when Angelica and I met, remember, she just told you she was afraid to be left alone with her kids because she didn't have the energy to not only make them dinner, but God forbid something happened. She didn't have any energy. Mm-hmm. And here she is walking 6 miles out in the sun, I bet.
Yep. All day.
How's the heat intolerance? That's a big question from people. How's the heat intolerance?
Well, I've never really had any heat intolerance. It's been good. I was always cold before. I'm not that cold anymore.
I hear that a lot now. Sometimes it's not heat. Sometimes it's the cold intolerance.
Like my feet, I remember my feet always being cold before. Always like needing a blanket for everything. And I'm not like that anymore.
Now your body's regulating your temperature. Life is good. So What advice would you give to people who are newly diagnosed, living in that fear that we all do? Do I do the medication? Do I go the natural route? Is the natural route going to work for me? There are so many people newly diagnosed who are unsure what to do, what path to take.
Yeah. Just get informed.
Get informed. Educate yourself.
Yes.
Educate yourself and listen to your gut, because once you educate yourself, you will be led to do what feels right once you remove everyone else's opinion
Yes.
and just listen to yourself.
Yes. And I have found there's been times where I have taken advice from people, you know, like family members, and then I'm like, oh, well, they suggested do this, so I'm going to do this. And then I always regretted doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did I listen to anybody else? Like, take your own advice. Take your own advice. Like,
Because we all have the answers. We're just not trusting enough of
yes.
ourselves to listen to all those answers coming through.
Yes. And, you know, you have to be patient. I know
That's
it's hard to be patient. It is, because I'm not a patient person. You know, me and Maisha used to call each other, just be like, oh my God, you know, is this, you know, how do they expect for us to do this? Like, I can't do this, and we got to stick to it. And then, you know, oh God, you know, what about if I just have, no, don't do it. Don't do it. You know,
Because even the tiniest bit, it sets you back.
Yes, yes. So her and I, you know, for me, I have tested over a long period of time that I do better without pork. I don't eat pork, and I don't eat chicken. I very limited amounts of beef, or like I was saying, I can have lamb chops, but I can't have them like all the time, once in a while, because the digestion is just so hard for me.
It just stops. I eat meat about once a
Yes.
month. I don't even know why I do that, because the digestion just stops.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do find like being on a more of a plant-based diet, you know, with a lot of plants. And I'm not just saying like a salad a day. No, you
No.
need to stock up on broccoli, you know, Brussels sprouts. You know, I make a lot of salads, you know, and eat a lot of raw veggies, or I do the smoothies with it, you know, so I implement a lot of different things. You know, I've now given up coffee again, because I just can't do the coffee. I feel how it makes me feel, and then it's a diuretic. It makes you go to the bathroom so much, you know.
Angelica, after Jackson, I was so good. Pregnancy, before trying to get pregnant, I was off the coffee. Now here's an old cup. Here I go from 3:00 today. I got to get off the coffee. I hear you. You feel it. You feel such a difference. But how did you get off the coffee?
Well, I kind of played around with different stuff. I started doing matcha tea.
Yeah.
I did matcha, and then chai
Reduce
teas.
so that you still get a little bit of caffeine,
Yes.
so you don't get the withdrawal headaches.
Yeah, and chai teas. I love chai tea. Chai tea is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So, you know, I just switch it up, you know, and then some days I'll be like, you know what? I'm not doing nothing this morning. I'm just doing my lemon water, and I'm doing my celery juice, and I'm getting my day started, you know, and just stay away from the coffee. It's hard though, because coffee's so good.
It is hard, because coffee is so comforting. It's such an event.
Just to sit down with a nice cup, hot cup, and watch TV or whatever. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this today.
Thank God for tea, because you can still sit down with a hot cup of something and still feel that coziness.
Yes, yes, yes.
Angelica, this was so great to talk to you. Do you feel, I have to ask you, because the one thing you always said back when we were talking, you said, I want to feel desirable again. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel happy, and I want to feel desirable again. Do you feel happy, healthy, and desirable today?
I am happy. I do feel healthy, but you know, those little lingering symptoms still irritate me, and I just want them gone. But I always like reflect back to where I was, to how I am now. And
oh my goodness. And it's only been since September of 2020.
Yes. So, you know, it'll be 3 years in September that I have been consistently working on this and changing up things. I got help with Holly, and Holly and we still communicate, and Holly's amazing. She's so informed about so many different things. And it's like, there's like a product I'm looking at. I will like text it, like, Holly, what do you think of this? And Holly and we have a different relationship, because I've known her since before, when we were all healing together. And Holly, she's just badass, because she's just like, I feel good, she's like, I want to be like that, and then, there's Tracy, and then I have Maisha. Maisha tries different things too, so we all kind of bounce things off.
Everyone needs a community.
Yes.
To do this with.
Yes.
And so you kept going. You kept going with the acupuncture, the biological dentist. It's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh, there's a protocol
I
out there.
Yeah, I just want my whole body to be in balance,
Right.
um and don't think, because my mind would always take me to, oh, if I only knew then, if I only knew back then that, that this is what would happen. And I'm like, no, I can't do that
You
anymore,
can't do
because
that.
I'm not there. I'm here now. And what can I do now to like fix this, make it better, slowly, because we're not going to heal overnight. Some
Mm.
people do, which is amazing. I'm just like, wow, what did you do? But, you know, I feel like it's a process, and even in the book that you first read, I don't remember what the name is. I have
Emma's
it.
recovery diet book, the
Yes.
old one, right? Yeah.
So there will be sometimes, when maybe I'm having an off day, I'll go grab the book and I'll like start reading. And I'm like,
Usually
okay,
inspired.
because there's a couple of like people in there like that say if I go back to, my old habits, the symptoms come back, or there was like a man in there that just couldn't stick to the diet and kept on cheating, or he kept on like reverting back and then get back on the diet when he would get really bad. And then eventually he stayed, consistent, and he's like, I'm better, or people that just have taken longer to heal, because everybody's different. We're not
Everyone's
all the
different.
same.
I've learned not to answer the question, how long do you think this will take? Because everyone's different. And I've also learned, well, you bring up a really good point. Everybody is different. Everyone's on a different timeline. So I finally caught on to me going, oh, when I would talk to a client or a group coaching client, I'd be like, oh, you know what? It was about 2 months ago since the last time they ate gluten. So I'm going to turn my camera around and show you what I have now. See that calendar? It goes all the way up. And every time somebody glutenizes themselves, we put it on the calendar so that we can count the weeks, because it's always that 8-9 week shift that happens. But you have to.
Yes. And then, you do have to be careful, because you can glutenized yourself. That's the word, right? Because I've done it. I think you and I had talked, like, or we just messaged each other, and I had eaten like this trail mix thing, and I was like, oh,
Always
this
the
is safe.
goddamn mixed nuts.
It was like, oh, it may contain wheat, and I'm like, oh my God, like, no wonder that's why I was
to
feeling
read
that
when
way.
you're eating single ingredients like nuts and berries. You don't think to read, and then you learn. And that's why also on this calendar, you won't notice it, but there's a lot of names that are circled and crossed off because they were glutenized, and then we start again.
Start over.
We also track the miracle moments, but you have to track your progress. You have to have a community of people, track your progress, and always be in a place of finding new ways. Just like you would in a marriage, to find new ways to stay connected. For your health, you find new ways to stay healthy here and healthy in the body. And this interview, this time that you're giving to everybody, this is what's going to allow people to build their library of evidence that healing is possible. It doesn't happen overnight. So if it's not happening overnight for you, that's because you're normal. This is why we do these interviews and build the library of evidence for people to have that proof in their minds that this does work. I can heal. I don't need the medication, and life can be good again.
Yes. And, I would find, because sometimes like I'll tell my family like, oh, I cheated today. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I had potato chips.
It's not like you had bread. It's not like you had eggs or dairy. I had potato chips.
Oh my God. Like, but also too, the potato chips, I find, because they're high starch, sugar, it's like starts triggering things.
Oil.
Yes.
That oil too, it just acidifies your body again, and you get all achy.
Yes. And so I try to be very, very careful. There's so many different things that have changed in my life. Maybe I'll have to like list it and then just post it for you, because, I changed like this, my cooking pots that I cook with. I changed a lot of things because I just want to be, healthier all around and lower my toxin load.
You're amazing. And that's why I'm telling you, Angelica was the first person. And because of Angelica and then Tina next, and the people that I've worked with, I didn't charge anybody because I didn't know what I
No.
was doing.
Did
I
you
was,
remember we used to have like those was it a group like phone call, group chat, or group video calls on Zoom?
yeah,
And we would all sit in there and like talk to each other. I think we're all like laying in our beds talking to each other.
yes, that's how Path to Healing and Minding Your Soul got started. I thought the community, number one, it is the community hearing everybody else's story. So after reaching out and saying, okay, I think this works. And I had a couple people, you being the first one, had a couple people to say, okay, let's do it. They started healing. Then I kept going, talking, and eventually I started doing nights and weekends, talking to more and more people. And then
Yeah,
my
because
husband,
you're still working at your job.
I was still in accounting. I fucking
Hmm.
hate accounting.
I
I
think you
hate numbers.
had you just gotten married? I think you had just gotten married.
2018, I had met Kevin. 2020. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
2020. That's when we
Hmm.
started talking.
Yeah.
July of 2020, I got married. And then, because you know what my husband said to me? He goes, why don't you stop talking about it and just do it? And I was so mad at
Hmm.
him for saying that. We just brought this up when I told him I was talking to you today.
Yeah.
I was so mad at him because I kept saying, I think I can help people. I really think. And he got sick of hearing that. He goes, why don't you stop talking about it and just do it? And that's when I started reaching out to people, and it felt awful because I kept getting blocked. But then working with you, thank you so much. Angelica, you're the one who is responsible for the Path to Healing group coaching program. We saw how important community was. We saw how important how laying the foundation and then giving yourself that confidence to go out and find these other practitioners and start feeling better little by little. It was through talking to you that all of Path to Healing, the group coaching, all of it goes back to my work with you and then Tina. And then we added Maisha for a little while.
Yes.
And then we
Well,
just
Maisha is still on the path to
she's still
healing.
doing. She's still on the
She's
Path to
still,
Healing. That's
she is.
awesome.
We keep in touch. I told her, I'm like, I'm doing this interview with Janine. What do you think? She's like, do it, do it. So
It has been such a journey. And thank God I'm out of accounting. So my nights and weekends turned into, I went to my boss and I'm like, this is taking up all of my time. Can I go to part-time? So then I went to part-time. And just 2 years ago, I was able to do this business full-time and raise a baby and raise a business in the past 2 years. It's been amazing. So after healing, there's just going to be more and more and more. And life just continues to get better. But thank you. Thank you for being so open and so vulnerable and building that library of evidence for people. And
yeah.
I hope that we can do this again in, let's say, 6 months, and we just keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, we'll give everybody updates.
Everyone
Do they have
says
any
questions? Yeah. Let's see. Stephanie says, Twizzlers regular licorice, first ingredient is flour. Isn't that amazing when you start reading stuff? First ingredient is flour in Twizzlers, and you're thinking, oh, it's just sugar.
Honestly, I will be very honest. I probably don't eat very much processed food. You know,
you
I
can't.
don't.
It does it.
Mm-mm.
One, because yes, it's bad for you, but two, because you can feel it right away what it does to your body.
Yeah, I can't even tell you the last time like me and my kids have gone to like a fast food place or drive through or anything like that.
Claire says, oh no, no. Claire says, thanks so much, Angelica. There are so many different tools we have in our toolbox to juggle on our healing journey. It's an exciting journey, and we are all so unique. We can all do it. Patience is a virtue. And Arden just identified with you. She goes, that's my cheat, potato chips in sunflower oil. Yeah,
Yes.
It's really hard to stay away from them. Sue says, thank you for your time. It's been very beneficial. Pam said, very interesting. Energetically, it has a meaning. We were talking about our symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Pam, initially my left side was affected and then it switched to my right side. No medical professional can explain why. I don't think we'll get any answers in the medical industry. And the more energy people that you talk to, the more they'll teach you about the right and the left side and what that means on the energetic level. And then if you get a little bit deeper into how you've been told, all of this energy stuff that we've been dealing with since childhood that's been affecting us, that's why, that's how it manifested in the body. The body is always the last to respond. We're dealing with so much on the energetic level, and then the body responds. Mm-hmm. And then we try to work backwards.
You know, I'm undoing a lot of trauma that I will say, I was my mom's confidant. I was like her best friend, her partner, raising my siblings. And I was too young to be given that much responsibility or to be holding secrets for people.
Mm.
I will not hold people's secrets for them anymore.
Oh, how good does it
Never.
feel to say that?
Oh, it feels amazing because even now when my mom tries to tell me stuff, because it's just old habits and also how she was raised is just generational trauma, just
Mm.
moving, moving, moving. And I'm like, it's stopping here because I'm
You
not
broke
doing
the
this to my
pattern.
kids.
You broke the pattern.
Hmm.
And you break the pattern every time that you say no to your siblings who still come to you. You break the pattern and you go, nope, I have to put me first, because putting you first means that you get to take care of your kids. You get to take care of
Yes.
your husband. You get to enjoy
And
life.
and you have a different relationship. Like I feel like I have a different relationship with my husband. We're just very honest with each other, and he can see when something's bothering me, and he's just like, "What's up? Like, tell me. Like, don't lie to me. Don't hold it in. Like, let me know." And because there are still things, like your spouse irritates you, over something, and you're just like, "Okay, I'm not going to say nothing," but he'll be like, "Wait, no, tell me, because I don't want you to feel like this."
Right. Because you keep that in, that goes somewhere and that stays somewhere in your body. And then that prevents the healing because all this negativity is vibrating around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If anybody has any questions, Angelica is in the Minding Your Soul group. And if you would like to reach out to her, please. And Angelica, I don't think
Yes.
we've had time to go through all of the comments. There are so many comments
Oh,
in here. You might like to look through them
okay.
and
Yeah.
respond later. So if we didn't get to your comments, Angelica and I will go back, maybe not tonight, but in the next couple of days. Thank you for being here. Thank you
Yes.
for creating the Minding Your Soul group. I'm just going to give you that credit. And hopefully I reached out to Tina last week and I said, hey, Tina, I talked to Angelica. I want to get the group back together and get you an interview in Minding Your Soul with me and Angelica. She goes, oh, hello. I'd love to. I'm in Puerto Rico right now. I'll get back to you. That was me trying to
Wait,
do
was she in Puerto Rico or Portugal? I thought she said
Portugal.
Portugal,
Sorry,
right? Yes,
Portugal.
yes, yes.
Thank you. And I loved hearing she's out and about. She's living her life. When we first started talking, she didn't leave her apartment. She couldn't leave her apartment. And now she's in Portugal. She's on vacation. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yes.
All right. I just looked at the clock. The last time I looked at the
Okay.
clock, it was 5:45. It's
Okay.
now 20 after 6. That's how
Okay.
fast it goes by. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to end the broadcast right now, but stay on. I just want to
Okay.
say goodbye to you.
Okay.
All right. We're ending.